Okay, so I'll be doing a video on early game PvE units, not PvP. I'll do units for PvP in another video. This is purely the units I think are the best for early game, mid game, and early late game for PvE content. This is not a tier list. Let me say that again. This is not a tier list. And if it were a tier list, Hercules will be at the very bottom. Like FFF class bottom, bro. Like got to be removed from the game level of bottom. But anyway, the units mentioned in this list will be SSR units, not UR units, not SR or R units. Now, before I get into it, because I want this to be as accurate as possible, the criteria for a unit being recommended will be usability in all three main PvE content, that being main campaign, Hades Hell, and elite campaign. Usability in Trials of Ascension, as well as usability in the Zodiac Caverns. Also, another part of the criteria will be if they will be able to take you far beyond early game content, and lastly, that they are not Hercules. I will also take into consideration synergy with other units that are not mentioned in the video and that are mentioned in the video. Okay, now that all the heavy information is out of the way, let's hop into it. Firstly, since this is targeted at new players, let's look at candidates for carries. If you don't know what a carry is the unit you build that will always be 20 levels ahead of everyone else and will be your main damage unit, and more often than not be the last one alive in the fight, fighting the entire enemy team. Candidates for such will be, and in no particular order, Oberon, Freya, Medusa, Archimedes, Zeus, and Persephone. Now, let's look at units I personally believe are the best to focus on in the beginning. Again, no particular order because this is not a tier list. So, Odin. Odin is a mandatory build in my opinion because of his support. He's one of the top units currently, no doubt. Leonidas is the best support tank in the game right now in my opinion. Susanoo is a mandatory build that everyone should have. He would have been in the carry section, but he honestly unlocks his real power around level 181. When it comes to AoE healing, AoE healing support specifically, I think all are great, but in the early game content, I think Eden and Hela shine the brightest, but Nagakanya is also really good, and Cassandra is one of my favorites. I think this is a case of you choose who you like the most. On to Western Queen. She is a definite build as she is going to make your carry unit feel like a raid boss with how much she buffs. Artemis is a niche build. She still has some of the highest DPS in the game, but she is quite squishy. However, she is a unit you will find yourself using in your teams in all forms of content 6 or 7 months into the game. And lastly, someone I know many people will disagree with, but I think Hades is one of the most powerful units in the game. I'd even go as far as to say he can be a carry early game most definitely. But I will leave him here in the recommended section. Because, well, Hades is technically a tank, but he has the highest DPS in the game, technically speaking, even though he is a tank. But he is unmatched in all forms throughout the PvE content in this game. He is a must build in my eyes, but use your own discretion. Now, before I close, I want new players to understand something important. Every character in this game has a faction: Luminarch, Guardian, Verdian, and Shadow Arc. You will learn as you play the game that you will find it near impossible to build multiple units of the same faction at the same time. My suggestion would be to build one character of each faction, and for your 5th character, build them much slower and not use up a lot of your resources on them, because trying to build many of the same faction is not the way to go. But just remember, all of this is just my opinion and advice as a so-called veteran player. Nothing more. You are free to build who you want, play who you want, and as long as it's not Hercules, do as you please. And my advice to spenders, especially the big spenders, is to build all the units I mentioned in this video before any others. Now, building these units properly and giving them right equipment for them to function optimally is another video on its own, but I may just do shorts on how to build different units if I see questions if I see questions being asked about it. Same with the team compositions. I recommended these units without telling you how to place them and who works the best with who. The reason I did that is because after a certain while you will find yourself rearranging your team compositions in every fight, and you will go entire chapters in campaign without using the same composition twice. So me telling you what is the best compositions now will not help improve your game knowledge properly. So just remember to read your hero's abilities, compare and contrast with other units, and feel free to join the main Discord server for Mythic Heroes and ask as many questions as you desire. Okay, I think that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and remember, don't build Hercules.